All right. So today we got a great guest, another great guest, right? All my guests are great. But this one, David Pere, he's a good friend of mine. I'd like to say good friend. We've actually never met in person. Everything's through Zoom these days, isn't it? Kind of crazy, crazy world we living in. But so Dave Pere, he runs Military to Millionaire. So if you're in the military and you haven't heard of this guy, if you're into investing and you're in the military and you haven't heard of this guy, it's because you're living under a rock. So he's got his own YouTube channel. He's put out a ton of content that helps new, military members plan for their future, but also get into investing in real estate and how they can create that passive income and set themselves up for success, as well as like he did. He retired from the military long before he actually hit retirement eligibility, right? So he's got a great story. Kind of fell into real estate investing accidentally. So that story is always interesting to hear. But he really maximized his experience and branded himself and, started telling his story and found that people were really interested in it. So I'll let him tell the story, but I think he brings a wealth of knowledge to the investor, the real estate investor that's still in the military or thinking of getting into the military, because there's a lot of tools that the military will give you that allows you to kind of get into this game a little easier. So we go into that. So I really think that's helpful for a lot of young, service members out there. But I'll let him tell his story, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Please remember to leave us a rating and a review. And, I'm not asking for 5 stars, but let me know what would make the show better. That's what I would like to know. All right, let's get into it. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Art of Winning. Today, we got a great guest. I was actually a guest on his show a while back, and he's brought a ton of value to my journey in real estate as an investor. He runs a mastermind group that I'm in, so I'm really excited to have him on. David Pere, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ashton.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've known you now for like 3 years, I think. You run the Military to Millionaire mastermind, as well as you have tons of educational content out there. You built a whole brand around military members or educating military members to financial freedom. And that's really why I wanted to have you on today.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, would you mind giving the listeners like a 60-second who you are, where you're from, and then, what got you into what you're doing today?
Yeah, I spent 13 years in the Marine Corps, and I joined in 2008. And in 2015, I had made every mistake that everybody else makes, right? And I bought the new Harley and the tattoos and the alcohol and the dates and the whatever. I had no money to show for the last 7 years. Yeah. And
you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I don't regret any of it, but man, I'd be in a great spot if I knew then what I know now.
All right.
And so in 2015, someone handed me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read it and I was like, wow, all right, I'm going to buy a house. And so it was just kind of like perfect timing. I had my lease on my apartment was coming up, and I was like, well, let me see if I can buy a duplex. And I found one. And so I went from paying like $550 a month to rent, 2-1 apartment to, I think I was out of pocket like $165 a month to own a 2-1 duplex. And then when I moved out, it started cash flowing. It's been cash flowing ever since. I've pulled $35,000 or $40,000 out of it in a refi, and it still cash flows. And that was my first one. And then I just kind of started buying real estate slowly at first, right? It took like another 2 years to buy the next deal, and then slow and steady. And then it sped up. And so far we've done 16 deals this year, and some big ones, and then a whole bunch of, single families and flips and burrs and all that other good stuff. And anyway, so yeah, after 5.5 years of doing that, realized I didn't have to be in the military anymore. So I pulled shocks and went to do my own thing, grew my little veteran beard, and here I am.
You wear the veteran hats now too? I served in Desert Storm.
Not yet. I don't wear a whole lot of hats, but when I do, I usually try to make it either like a branded one or from like a fitness event that I did. So it's like, I'm better than you and I know it.
So long as you know the statement you're making. Yeah, that's awesome.
Look at this cool thing I got a hat from.
Yeah. I'm the same way, man. I get free swag and I love it. Like I have a ton of them.
Yeah, you could just live out of t-shirts from events if you wanted to. I don't think I've got a t-shirt in probably like 4 years.
I mean, it's perfect. Like I don't even know how to shop for t-shirts anymore. They're expensive. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but I agree.
But anyway, so people didn't want to hear about our t-shirt selection, I'm sure. Maybe, I don't know. But I am curious, like, so what made you start the Military to Millionaire, the group that, and then all the videos and everything too?
Yeah, actually, it's sitting behind me. The wag bag that's on the couch right there is a journal that I had from when I was in Afghanistan in 2010. I somehow, some way, I was intelligent enough or lucky enough to think it'd be cool to keep a mission log in a journal that kind of correlates,
Nice.
which is actually really great right now because the VA is trying to tell me that my hearing aid's not service connected because there's no proof I drove over an IED. And I'm like, well, here's a screenshot of my journal that's 6 years old talking about it. So, like, I don't think I wrote this as a lie 6 years, or like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, in like January 2018, I was thinking that I wanted to write a book about Afghanistan because, like, there's all the books, all the SEALs write books, all the cool kids have all these great stories, but there's no book that's like, yeah, I drove trucks and we did a bunch of dumb stuff, and this is what normal people went through.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like that'd be cool because I have like the actual perspective of having the journal that, this is what I was thinking when I was 21 and I did this. Yeah. And so I had Brandon Turner was over for dinner at my house in Hawaii when he was trying to figure out if he was moving there. And I was asking him like, hey, you've written some books. What should I do? And he was like, you should start a blog so that you have an excuse to start writing because nobody's going to know who you are. So nobody will buy your book right now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What should I write about? He's like, I don't know, like document what you're doing with real estate. And that was literally it. And then within the next month and a half, it was like blog started, YouTube channel started, like 6 months later, podcast started. I had no idea what was going to come from that. And I had no idea, no vision for it. It was literally just, I want to get better at writing. So I'm going to write on this thing and we'll see what happens. And then somewhere along the way, I think the fact that I was just genuine and not selling a bunch of crap seemed to resonate with people. And the platform like exploded. And I realized, hey, wait a minute. I can also do this for a living. Like, this is actually gonna, like, all of a sudden it was like, wait, YouTube's paying me like $500 a month, and people are asking to pay me to talk on the phone and give them advice. And wait a minute, this is a real thing. Like, I got a business now. I should figure out what to do with this. And so there was no plan. I don't know. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it worked.
What was the first blog you wrote?
Oh, the first, I don't know what the first one I wrote was, but one of the first few was like, this tells you I had no idea what I was doing. One of the first few, the one that I remember was literally like, I wrote an article about how to use the Google advanced search to make your Googling more effective. Like, it has nothing to do with anything other than I was like, hey, if you learn this, you can learn better. And I don't know. The first few articles are all trash.
So
they're still up.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool. I mean, my brother loves that whole concept because it's evergreen, right? People can look it up forever.
They're so
it doesn't go away. So, which, for better or worse, I guess.
Yeah.
But like if you're trying to build a brand, if you're trying to build a business, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's how people find you these days. But you had no intent to actually do that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No idea what it was going to come.
Yeah. But so, did you have a niche figured out? Were you focused on anybody?
I mean, originally it was just me. I was just trying to document my journey. And so the reason it focused on military was because, I was in the military. So it was like, oh, this is what I'm learning about the VA loan. And this is what I'm learning about this. And this is what I'm learning about X. And then what happened was people started to ask questions. And then I was like, hey, I've now had someone ask me if they should refinance their house 5 times. Maybe I should write an article about when it's time to refinance your house. And that was kind of what became the content strategy, was when I started getting questions. I actually haven't written a blog post I might have written one blog post in the last year, just because after getting out of the military, like ironically, I don't have as much time to write as I did when I was in the military because I seem to fill my schedule with crap. But it's just kind of morphed over time to be more, I don't know, more fluid content. I just stayed consistent. And it wasn't that I necessarily chose the military niche at first. It was just that's what I was writing about, because that's what I was doing. And then it seemed to work. So I stuck with it.
Would you, so then did this lead you? Are you financially free right now, I guess?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I exited, I guess technically I'm in the reserves. I haven't gone back in 6 months. I'm doing IMA, so I have to do 1 month every year,
Yeah.
and I don't have to go back until next April, like 2023. So if I decide to stick that out, I will go back at the very end of 2022. But so I haven't had to drill since December, and yeah, I mean, aside from that, I haven't made a penny through anything other than my own means since October. So
that's it. Well,
I would say
go.
so.
That's the show right there, man. Start a blog about how to use Google. And
well, I mean, yeah, it's definitely not all the blog, but the the platform does pretty well. Yeah.
No, I mean, your videos are awesome, man. I think they connect with people a lot because you're adding the content's very, I mean, this is what people are needing to do, and you're very honest about it. Like it's like not this is how you make $1 million. Like this is how you navigate this and this and this, which will lead to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're not out there showing your Lamborghinis and stuff. Wait, that I've seen.
It's funny you say that. I rented a McLaren when I was the day I picked up my DD214. It cost me like $1,000, and I rented a McLaren, and then I made a whole bunch of stupid videos making fun of all those dudes. And like literally one of the videos was like me holding my book, and I was like, I pointed under a bridge and was like, 30 days ago I lived under that bridge. Then I read this book, and now I'm a billionaire. And
that's awesome.
Ironically, people thought it was legit. Like all of a sudden I started getting like these, gurus, you're terrible. Yeah. I was like, you guys can't tell this is fake. Like, so they bombed, and lesson learned, but no, yeah, definitely not that guy. Although I do want a nice car one of these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty funny though. I think that's a hilarious story. But everybody's a hater online these days. It seems like.
Oh yeah. But it was pretty funny because I drove it to pick up my my DD214, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm walking out of the IPAC.
Are you in civilian clothes?
Yeah, I'm in civies, but I'm walking out of the IPAC and I'm in the parking lot, and I click the click and I go to open the door, and this is, a McLaren. So the door's whatever. And in the car driving by me, like the car next to me stops, rolls his window down, and it's a major that I had worked with in Hawaii for a while.
Yeah.
Who knew when I started all this stuff. And he looks at me, and he just looks, he looks me up and down, and he's like, I guess that whole real estate thing's going all right, isn't it? I just like, I was like, I can't tell him this isn't legit. So I was like, hey, it's going all right. Just picked up my DD214. I got in the car and drove off.
Yeah.
It's too funny.
That's awesome, man.
Like that guy thinks I'm a baller, but it was pretty funny.
That is hilarious. So, okay. So kind of to back up, I mean, you started the blog, but you'd already done several deals. I imagine you've done quite a few deals.
Yeah, I bought a duplex, a 10 unit, and a single, I think, when I first started writing.
Nice. And how much did creating that content help you, move into what you are? I essentially help you create that financial freedom, or was it just a byproduct of everything you were doing?
Yeah, originally it was just a byproduct. It's funny. It helped a lot because what would happen is I would go, I'm going to write an article about refinances, and I don't know everything about refinances. So in order to write that article, I now need to go spend 6 hours reading up on refinances. And so I think that the blog actually helped me learn all of this better than had I not been writing. Because I mean, it's like anything, right? If you teach somebody how to analyze a property, you're going to learn it a lot better than if you just mess around with a spreadsheet for 5 minutes. And so I think it helped a lot in that regard. And then, as it grew, I mean, it's kind of weird. So I probably brought in, active and passive income, like around 30 grand last month.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say 9 of that comes from the platform. But the difference is that that's 9 that came in from the platform with 3,000 in expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 20 probably had $12,000 to $15,000 worth of expenses. So it's the active real estate side and the marketing and everything else it's such a bigger beast than just the content. Because the content, my only real big fixed cost on the content side is my assistant.
Yeah.
And if I did not have an assistant, I mean, I'd be $500 to $1,000 a month overhead, and I'd be bringing in almost the same amount of money. I would just have no life. So
I did a whole show on that about having assistants and hiring VAs. And I think that's a crucial piece. If you're trying to start your business, if you think you may need assistance, you're probably already like 6 months behind, in my opinion. Like, 10X is your priority, like what you can actually do.
Yeah, because you get to focus on what you actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And what you're good at.
And what's actually creates value, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that, man. So what does your business look like right now? So you said the platform and then your real estate. So you have multiple streams of income, which I'm a huge fan of. But what does all that look like?
Yeah, let's get real. Let's
get real.
I'm gonna open my net worth sheet, and
that's right. You're in GoBundance, aren't you?
Yeah, I have I've built out a bunch of random stuff on top of that, but let's see. I'll go to May because May's is final. So my May 1st. So according to this, I brought in. This is you get into these numbers and it starts to it'll spook people. So $34.50 through the mastermind, $20, all of $20 from my real estate course last month, $703.95 in book sales, $648.86 from YouTube, $320 from PropStream affiliates, $329 from Aria Sift affiliates, $450 from a Facebook automation thing that I just randomly threw $3,000 at a few months ago. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 referral checks for a total of $9,694. And I actually can't say this number just because I signed a contract, but or an NDA, but some money in regards to being the co-host of the Bigger Pockets Money Show.
Congrats on that. I must have missed that.
I'm on a trial period, so it's not like official yet. I got like a 3-month trial, but yeah, I'm getting paid now, which is cool. So let's see. So it's weird because like if you factor in, so like if you go back like February, if you factor everything in, it was 34.7 was brought in, March 32.6, April 26.4, and then May we didn't have any wholesale deals land because it's just some weird, like this guy's still dealing with probate. Like the attorney lost the paperwork. And so we've been under contract for like 2 months and can't close on it. So I've got like a $15,000 assignment fee just floating around in the world, waiting on an attorney to go find some stupid piece. I was like, hey, can I just have my assistant show up at your office and find the stupid piece of paper for you? Like I'll pay for it, but whatever. So I mean, it's definitely grown a lot. I mean, there's a ton of expenses in there, right? That's just gross income, gross revenue. But yeah, it's not too bad.
That's the platform you're talking about.
That's everything. That's everything. Okay. So looking at, let's see. So the platform would have been, I guess February was 4,500, March 5,800, April 6,600, and May 5,900. And then the rest is either cash flow or active, like flipping and wholesaling.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, and so you do your own flips, you do your own wholesaling because you're trying to get those flips. I started the whole Freedom Properties thing up just because I wanted access to my own deals off market in my town. I didn't want to have to go through wholesalers. I felt like I could, at least get my own deals. And it's worked out for a while, but I think as I alluded to before we got on the call, the paperwork's not drafted up, but I just came to a verbal agreement for selling it to someone else. So I'll have a 15% equity stake on year 1, and then a 10% on year 2, and a 5% on year 3. And I get first right of refusal on up to 1 deal a month. So I'll still have the deal flow, and then I'll get, passive income from them building the business and able to pivot back to focus on the brand. That's awesome. I was talking to somebody and he's much wealthier than I am, or much more successful. Maybe, I don't know, probably both, but he was saying, whenever you build a business, always have a plan to sell it. Was that something you thought of at the beginning?
No, honestly, I was driving back from Utah Monday and my buddy's like, have you ever thought about selling it? I was like, nope, didn't even know that was a thing, for a wholesale company. Yeah. And he goes, well, think it over and tell me what you want. I'm like, okay. And then Tuesday we talked on the phone, and then Wednesday we came to terms, and I was like, well, that was easy. All right.
How did you value it?
So, I mean, the only way that I know you could theoretically would be at like a 2.5x of gross revenue multiple.
Mhm.
But we didn't do anything. They offered me cash, and I just figured, I believe in you guys. I'd rather you not pay me a penny and I get a split. I get a small cut for, year 3, 2, and 1, or 1, 2, and 3. And then, I felt like, okay, well, if I do that and I have access to the deal flow at just cost of marketing, then that was really the only reason I started it in the first place, was my own deal flow. So,
Right.
if I can check that box, everything else is a win. Because I was trying to figure out, I had kind of a weird situation where I was starting to build this company up and hiring people to really start crushing it. We were doing a bunch of deals. And then the guy who was my acquisitions manager, who was trying to become, the plan was for him to become a partner, just kind of decided that in his mind, he didn't need me anymore. He had learned everything from my systems, time, and network, and hiring and paying for people and all that. And half the people I hired happened to be friends of his. And then, when he was like, I'm going to go do this on my own, they of course all went with him. Right. So it seemed almost premeditated. So I was like, I'm kind of over this whole wholesaling thing if I have to do it on my own, because I want to focus on the brand. So this was the perfect pivot for me. So.
Yeah. And that's, if for people that aren't familiar with wholesaling, it's a lot of active work too, right?
Yeah, it's amazing to me online. Everybody talks about like wholesaling is the best way to get started in real estate, because you can do it for like no money and just a little bit of effort. Like, wholesaling is the most ridiculous, like, merry-go-round. You are always getting pulled a million different directions. Like, it is not a simple, like, oh, we'll just send some letters and wholesale some deals. Like, I was spending $15,000 a month, not including marketing.
Wow.
To keep the thing, like it was like 15 grand a month in fixed costs to keep the beast alive. And it's my goodness, not a stress-free business at all. Especially when you got something like this, where you're like, oh, we got a $15,000 assignment. We're good for the month. We're covered. Oh, wait, it can't close. So never mind. And then you've got the buyer's mad because he wants to close, and his lender's mad because they want to send their money, and the seller's mad because he wants to close. And you're like, I want to help all of you, but your attorney sucks. So,
and you're solving a lot of problems, and there's a lot of cost and effort that goes with it.
Yeah. It's not especially, and then you get into the house flip side, and you get to where it's like, we had a house that went almost $20,000 over budget here recently, which isn't, not the end of the world. I'll still be zero into it on the burr, but we got in, we pulled the subfloor up because we had to redo the subfloor and redo the LVP. And the moment we pulled it up, it was like, oh, hey, look, the cast iron plumbing on this house was ruined. Yeah. So the guy ran his own PVC pipe next to it and was like, yeah, that'll work. And so we get in there, we're like, well, we got to replumb the whole house. Like, there goes $10,500 in a 3-week delay. So it probably cost 15 grand in holding costs. And, man, it's just, those are the kinds of things that, like, there's a lot of money to be made there, but at what cost? Like, kind of what we were talking about before, right? Like, if I'm financially free, do I really want to be running around looking for plumbers? Like, no, not really.
Yeah. I guess everybody's financially free is a little bit different. And as you started building yours out, that's kind of how you realize it. You're like, I hustled and grinded while I was in the military. I'm not trying to create another job now that I'm out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to go through that to know, like, yeah, I'm making all this money, but I'm working my tail off.
Yeah. My marriage is suffering. My kids are like, are you going to, like, you have to explain to your kid, like, oh yeah, I'm going into work real quick on a Sunday. Like, why? Because daddy's a workaholic. That's why. I really don't
it for you.
Yeah. It's like, I don't even have a boss. Like, it's like, how do you justify that? Cause it's like, I can't even be like, oh, there's something crazy I have to do. It's like, no, I'm doing it because I need to do it. Like, it's all me. That's probably the worst part about being self-employed or unemployed, or however you want to look at it, is like, everything that goes wrong is my fault. Well, that makes it hard to blame anything else and anyone else. So when things aren't going my way, it's like, oh man, what am I messing up now?
Though, you know what though, like I'd argue that that's probably why 90, I'm gonna throw out a number. 90% of America loves being a victim and saying I can't do it because I'm not privileged because of this and this, because they then you do have to own up to it. Like, yep, everything in my life is my fault.
Yeah,
And
100%.
it's up to me to change it if I want to change it, and I can't blame anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what led you, so once you so you built all these platforms, what made you realize like where you wanted to cut fat? Was it just because he made the offer on it? Like you want to cut that job out? Or was it really, sounds like it was becoming a pain in your side.
Well, so, the whole intent for me originally was just a few mailers and a system. And I do a couple appointments. I land a deal every quarter or two, one or two deals a quarter. No big deal. It's just kind of fun. And I get a few extra properties for myself. And then when Andrew came along, he was like, okay, well, this guy wants to grow and he can focus on the acquisition side, which is the side that I don't have time for. So we can easily scale this up. We hired some cold callers, brought in a lead manager, started scaling it up. And then when he was like, screw this, I'm out. I just immediately realized like, well, I don't want to, like, I could go and hire a new acquisitions manager and train them and keep going, but I'm not really enjoying the pace of this and how much it pulls me away from the things that matter to me. Right. And so I knew that I was going to scale it back to where I was originally at, which was just a little bit of marketing here and there. Mm-hmm. So the offer was, a blessing in disguise, because I would personally rather focus, I said this, I think Monday I was talking to somebody. Like, don't get me wrong, I make a decent amount of money in real estate, right? Like we've got a house right now that's listed that if it sells, my net from it will be more than half of what my W-2 was in the Marine Corps last year. So like, it's not like I'm doing bad but the thing is that if I'm going to make $10,000 doing whatever, I would rather make that $10,000 from helping other people make money and learn and grow and making a difference than make $10,000 because my tenants paid. Like, I've never had a tenant be like, oh, thank you so much for helping us by letting us pay you rent and live in your crappy house. Like, they don't care. And so from an impact standpoint, like, the more I started to look at it, I was like, well, where do I want to focus my time? Well, I would rather focus my time on the things that people appreciate and actually, make a difference and help people out if I'm going to make money one way or the other. So I kind of was looking towards that. And then the other thing I've been kind of looking at is, we're under contract on one right now. It's like a weird, like, campground, RV park, mobile home park kind of combo next to a lake in a little town in Missouri. Cool. And what I was able to, my friend found it. He needed to buy an investor because he didn't have the capital. My other friend's looking to invest in something in the area. So I put them together, and then I got 10% of the deal for making the introduction. And so, like, that's what, in a perfect world, what I would love to be doing in real estate is more just like, oh, you've got this awesome deal and you need some investors. Let me put these people together. And then I can have I get a small cut, but I don't have to operate it. And I didn't have to bring cash to the deal. Like, am I going to make a killing from that thing? No, by no means am I going to make a killing from it, but I'm going to do almost no work and I'm going to make something. And
I think that's worth its weight, man.
Yeah, I love it. Like, that's fun, and it's a win-win for them, because the guy who's bringing the money is going to do absolutely nothing and get a good return. And the guy who's operating it put $0 into it and is also going to get a good return. It's it's a win-win. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I don't know that I'm going to go where you and your brother are with the big syndication stuff, but or the bigger deals. But I have some friends in town who are looking for bigger deals, and so I'd like to just kind of be like, hey, if I can find one and I can hand it to this guy, if he gives me 5% equity just for finding it, and I don't have to do anything, like, perfect. Here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think I'm going to work on.
And that it kind of it gets me thinking, man. So that's where we were at first. We were doing all our own deals. But we realized that there's other people that are better at deal finding. There are other people that are better at managing the deal, for sure. If we can connect people to those, like passive investors, to those, then, and that's what we like doing anyway, so it made more sense. I said it earlier, but like the financial freedom, it looks different for everybody. But, I think when you start to really consider what your perfect life looks like. It's usually doing things you love with people you enjoy being with and getting paid for that. And I'm like, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a fun aspect to like flipping a property or turning stuff around. Like that's a fun thing to do, but it's much more fun as a hobby than it is as a job. It's like anything, I guess, right? I love cars. I have built my own, race car, quote unquote, once or twice.
No kidding.
I've always been a car guy. Yeah, I call it a race car, but I had a 2001 S2000 that I ripped the whole engine apart and port and polished the heads and turboed it and everything in my garage. And then the only thing I didn't do was the dyno because I don't own a dyno, so they won't let you dyno your car on their stuff. They have to do it for you. But stage 4 clutch in the works. And I mean, I've always loved those things. But if I was to go and work as a mechanic, it would not take long for me to be like, screw cars. I'm never touching a vehicle again in my life. And so for me, like real estate, like it's kind of the same way. If you're stuck where you have to be running through projects 24/7, it gets old, And so the hustle and grind is fun when it's fun, but it's not fun when you have to do it. And I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's like I kind of reached this point where I'm like, man, like on Tuesday, I got back from Utah on Monday, and on Tuesday, the only time I left the house was to take my wife to the to a doctor's appointment real quick. And other than that, I literally sat around the house. I never do this. This was like actually hard for me to get myself to a point where I was like okay with this. But I played Halo 1 for like 4 hours on my own. And I drove the 4-wheeler in circles in the backyard and chased cows around and, whatever. And like, it was just like, man, like I have not hung out with a single person. I haven't left the house and I'm literally just driving around in the mud on a 4-wheeler on my own. Like, it's just the ability to do that is like the financial freedom. Like, do I want to do that every day? No. But I mean, I go back and I think like, man, if I was in the military, like there's no way I could take a Tuesday and be like, yep, I'm going to just play Halo all day.
I'm just not coming in. I'm not quitting. So, I'm just not going to come in.
Yeah. Like that's the part that I want to get back to is like, I want to get to where I'm excited to go into the office because I get to be in the creative state and build stuff out, not torn having to run to deals and drop keys off and whatever. So,
yeah. That's really cool, man. What's next for you and your team, your platform? Obviously you're selling the wholesaling, but what's next?
Yeah. So I'm going to triple down on the brand. A couple different courses that I want to run. We are hosting our first event in person with the mastermind next month. And then we're going to do another one in Bigger Pockets. So I think my goal for the next little bit is going to be really just kind of like doubling down on content in general, and then building out some other courses for various things that'll help people out. And just, I don't know, really, just whatever it takes to be able to point people in the right direction and watch them succeed. Right.
Yeah. And, I think for people that are listening, that are thinking about building their own business, I kind of want to go back to your brand because that's what's making all this possible. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so what went into building your brand? I mean, obviously you started with a blog. You have, I don't know, thousands of videos at this point.
Yeah. Like 600 or 700 videos on YouTube. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Never mind getting paid for them. I mean, just the residual of being able to have a deal or have a brand and then do deals because of that, or have partnerships because of that. But what else goes into your brand at this point?
Yeah. I mean, there's blog, podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, ironically, is like the fastest growing platform of all of them.
Yeah.
I've got, I don't know, 200,000 followers across all platforms, probably.
200,000.
Yeah, I think so. So it's
powerful.
There's like 45 on Facebook, 75 on TikTok, 45 on Instagram. I mean, I read there's like 160. So, if you factor in podcast downloads, YouTube subscribers, whatever, it's around 200, which is cool. But you're absolutely right. Like the brand has allowed me to do things that I hadn't even wrapped my mind around. So I consider my like superpower to be like networking and content marketing at this point.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we've done, so of the 16 deals we've done this year, I think 6 of them we took down ourselves. I think it was actually 8, but 2 of them were like turnkey. So 6 of them that we did 100% financed the purchase and the renovation without a single penny in, and then refinanced out. And so that's like right around 600 grand that we've borrowed from lenders.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have sent 10 emails. So it's like, it's the brand, it's the content, it's the trust. Like, it's been to the point where I've been like on the phone with people, and they've literally, there was a conversation. So one of the deals, the one that we just listed today, were 172 was the total purchase and renovation. So we needed to borrow 172,000. And I put it out in an email. It was like the most money I've ever said, hey, if anybody wants to be first position lien on a loan. And I kid you not, it wasn't even 45 minutes. I got an email that was like, dibs. And it blows my mind. I'm like, holy smokes. Like, I just raised more money than I made in my last enlistment, taxable, like off an email, and that's 100% just the brand, the content, and just, I mean, the fact that people feel like they know me and trust me because of that. And it's kind of weird, some of the opportunities that's opened. I mean, I got, I haven't been paid yet, but a company reached out to me, and I had to do 2 30-second TikTok videos, and they're paying me $2,000. And so like, it's little things like that where it's like, dude, I never thought that this was going to be anywhere near as powerful, but you can do, if you have a platform, then no matter what you want to do, it becomes easy. I mean, you guys are experiencing this, like, prior to having all of your content and everything online, like the first time you raised money was a whole lot harder than it is now. Right. And it's just, the more you get out there, the more it's like, wow, anything you want to do, if you've got people that follow you around, you're going to be able to do it. And
I think you'd be surprised how many people connect with people being authentic online too. Just telling your journey, how you got there, what you're doing, these are the tips. I mean, I think a lot of people are realizing it, but if you can actually build a following, build a brand around what you're doing, man, there's a lot of power in it. You're talking about raising capital, which I think a lot of people don't understand. But for real estate, it's essential, like, because there's a lot of money that goes into real estate, and there's a lot of people out there with capital that want to passively invest or give money to solid operators like yourself and get a solid return. Right. So the sooner you can convey that you're trustworthy, people know, like, and trust you, the sooner, they'll lend you money. And that could be for a startup company or startup business or anything too. So that's really powerful, man. I think, if you're out there on your own doing a business, if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't gone on social media, man, you're missing out on a huge piece to your business.
Absolutely. But probably the most important part of your business.
Yeah. Maybe, 10, 20 years ago, not so much. And it was probably like paid advertising somewhere or billboards, but now 30-second video on TikTok.
Dude, I've had some of those videos. I had a video I made was 11 seconds long and got like 72,000 views. And from that one video, we got, I don't even know, like 40 or 50 requests for, like, coaching calls and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even do coaching calls. Like, I literally had to go and figure out, like, how much would I want to charge people in order to take a 30-minute call where they're actually wanting me to provide advice and like create something for it, because it was like overwhelming response. And the video was ridiculously stupid. And I'm like, man, what in the world is wrong with TikTok? This is wonderful. Like, that's what succeeded. Cool.
I think it has something to do with attention span and how easy it is to scroll and go to the next one. But if you can get really good at putting in a hook, like some type of nice hook, and then some good information, because we had the same thing, and we're going through that right now. Like, should we open a coaching plan? Because, I probably 50, maybe 60% of the calls, people that sign up for calls with us, they want to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And as of right now, those are not my $10,000 an hour conversations, So how do I turn that into that? So we're kind of working through that as well, but it sounds like you are too. And you got a way bigger platform than us. So I can only imagine.
It gets overwhelming. Yeah. I have my assistant has like templates, and it's like, if somebody asks this, send them this template. And all of the templates basically say, here's a whole bunch of awesome free content. Go read all that crap before you bug me.
That's good. That is brilliant too, because that shows dedication. If somebody reads all that and then they come with questions, then probably be a lot more educated questions, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've actually gotten to a point where, like, if somebody reaches out and offers to pay me, to like get on a call,
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take this phone call and I won't like, I had a 30-minute call with a guy yesterday and he's like, well, just send me a bill. And I'm like, nah, you're good. He's like, no, seriously. Like, I want to pay you. I'm like, I don't even know what to charge you, like whatever. But it's the people who reach out and they're just like, hey, can I just pick your brain? I'm like, no, those are the phone call. Like, it's like, I don't care about the money from the phone call. I'm just not going to take your phone call if you don't think that I'm worth paying to talk to, because I know you're going to waste my time with your questions. It's like, well, if you're not willing to pay for the advice, then you probably weren't willing to go to Google and see if your answer was as easy as typing in, can I buy the VA loan or use the VA loan to buy a rental? And the answer is no. So why am I going to jump on a phone, to answer that for you? So
that does crack me up. Like Google can answer so much, and yet people reach out with that stuff. But I mean, it's an interesting problem you've created for yourself, for sure.
It's all part of learning to say no and set boundaries, right?
Yeah.
The right people will get through.
That's a good point too. You're seeking financial freedom. You're seeking that independence. But if you are continuously feeling like you owe people or have to give them those conversations, like knowing when to say no is part of being free.
Yeah. That's probably the hardest part.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you have people approaching all the time with different investment deals too, and you have to decide which ones are the best ones and which ones aren't.
Yeah, and all kinds of people who want me to, stick your reputation out or raise money for something that, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
If I don't know you, like, the reputation's everything. So if I tank it by partnering with the wrong person, you can't get that back.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. So what kind of investments are you doing now? I mean, you're still doing the flips though, right?
Yeah. So I've got a few, I've got two that the loan just got approved. So the refi should be done next week that I'll rent. And then we've got 4 more active renovations. 2 I'm going to refi and hold, and 2 I'm going to flip and, just be done with. And then on top of that, really just, kind of trying to figure out if I want to, what direction I want to go with that. If I want to go focus solely on large multifamily self-storage mobile home parks, it's just an interesting spot to be in, because it's like I don't really have to do any of that. So which one's more fun? So I'm kind of dabbling for a little bit to see what I actually enjoy. Like the whole idea of owning like a campsite RV park mobile home thing, like that's fun. It's on a lake. It'll be a good spot, whatever. And
we've been doing some of the Airbnbs because of that, lifestyle by design, right? It's a cash flowing asset, but now we get to use it. So I imagine that's kind of what the RV park would be for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's up on a lake, so excuse to go hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Kind of coming up on the end here. So I got 4 more questions, a little bit deeper and less about your business, just more about David Pere. And am I saying it right? I think I am.
You are. Yeah. It's very rare that someone does.
Well, I have a French last name as well, and I think yours is French too. So.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if life was a game, which I feel it is, how would you measure if you're winning? How do you know if you're making progress and actually moving towards a winning life, success in your life?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just being able to connect people and like make an impact. Like I'm less worried about metrics and numbers at this point in life, and just kind of trying to focus more on like, what's the legacy I leave behind? Like what's the, do people think I'm some schmuck, or do people think like, whatever? And so I think for me, maybe the way to put that in tangible words would be how many people are going to show up to your funeral. Nobody wants to be that casket where like the only person there is the dude who got to bury you. So.
That's that would be depressing to think about.
I mean, you'd never know, but yeah.
I think Stephen Covey talks about that. How you, if you write your own eulogy, what do you want it to look like? What do you want it to sound like?
I like, he's a good author.
Yeah. All right. So next question, what what do you do for people that are successful? I find have strategies for areas of their life. What are you doing for health these days?
Not enough. I joke that I actually I attempted I was at the Ironman World Championship on Saturday, and I had a nutrition blowout and lost all my fluids on the side of the road 4 hours in, so I didn't get to finish it.
Wow.
I don't know if triathlons is going to be. I've done 2 half Ironmans. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to reattack the full Ironman or if yeah, I'm torn between. So when I lived in San Diego, training for multi-sport was way more fun than here in Missouri. I'm always afraid I'm going to die on a farm road and the weather's not easy, not very permissible. So it hasn't been fun to train here. There's no big group rides.
Death doesn't make it fun.
Yeah. So I'm kind of at a spot where like, I'm torn between like jujitsu, CrossFit, and just going back to like powerlifting. I really like lifting heavy weights and, so I've been dealing with some health stuff and I finally got it all back on track so that I can come back down and weight. And then, I'm looking at all the class schedules and I think it's going to be weightlifting with a personal trainer because I don't want to have to be up at the 6 a.m. WOD for CrossFit. I'd like to have my morning routine and then make it into the gym at like 7. So yeah. I did the whole 4 a.m. wake up thing for like 5 years. I feel like I've earned the right to wake up at 6 and make it to the gym at 7. So that's kind of the goal now. So I don't know if you'd asked me that last week, the goal would have been complete the Ironman World Championship and then get more into endurance stuff. But I'm kind of realizing that the endurance game takes so much time away from the family. So I think maybe getting back to where it's just like 1 hour a day, 5 or 6 days a week and in a routine is going to be the go for a little while.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I mean, I used to spend a lot. I spend 2 hours in the gym and then another 2 hours at rugby and then in fight club. And so
you do rugby now?
I don't. Ever since the pandemic, it got shut down and I was retiring and I just haven't picked it back up. So yeah. I love it though. I love playing rugby.
Yeah, I was a flanker for a few years. There's a team here in town and they practice at kind of a weird time, but I've been thinking about showing up anyway and seeing what happens because I definitely enjoyed it for a while.
Yeah, I was a flanker as well for 8 years. Yeah. I went to
that's the best
Division
position.
2. Yeah, it was a blast, man. You get to play forward and
you get to pick everyone up.
Forward. Yeah.
I remember the first time I showed up for practice, it was in high school, and my coach is like, "Hey, took one look at me. It was like, you look like you're built for a flanker." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, "Okay, look, here's what you do. If you see somebody on the other team holding the ball, kill them." He was like, you play smear the queer with the other team. And I was like, really? That's kind of what I do. He's like, yeah, that's what you do. I was like, oh, well, this sounds like a great sport. And I loved it.
I was built for that.
Definitely built for that. Not built for fly half.
Yeah, those guys are tiny and quick. No, I'm with you, man. That's awesome. I didn't know you played rugby.
It's been a bit, but I'd like to get back into it.
Yeah.
You know who else does it? Kind of surprising is Scott Trench.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a rugger. I think he played in college too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
We had a conversation about it a little bit ago because he went back to start doing practice and he's like, just so you know, like everybody there is a hoodlum. Like all the people who play rugby after like college are all like, convicts. And like, I was like, that makes sense.
Or drunks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah. All the civilian ones that I played with anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So next question. So we talked a lot about your wealth strategy, how you're building wealth, how you're building financial freedom. What would you say like your key tenets are for building wealth in your life?
Leverage to the hilt, cross your fingers, hope it works. It's definitely becoming more conservative as I'm progressing, but I mean, that's kind of been, for me, it's my biggest tenet has been sticking to things I know. And then just, always asking what the worst case scenario is. And if the worst case scenario isn't like total ruin, then screw it. We're going for it. And just taking some of those risks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people get stuck on the details and don't take that risk, don't take action, and they miss out on a lot of stuff, but especially because they don't know. But there's so much free information out there these days. That shouldn't be why. All right. So last question. What brings you the most joy in life these days?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of times it's my little 5-year-old. Just he's always in a good mood. So, as long as I have the energy to keep up with him, hanging out with him is usually the answer.
I got two little ones. How many kids you have?
We got a 5 and a 13, both
13.
boys.
Yeah.
13's nuts. He's like 3 inches taller than me and like super athletic. I don't, whatever. We don't relate.
Yeah.
He's a stepson. His dad's like 6'4", so he is 13, and I think he's like 5'10" and a half, and has like a full mullet. It's pretty funny.
Hey, good for you, man. I had a stepfather, and he stepped in and was my dad, and I know that took a lot for him because I took a lot of years off his life, but.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, stepdad and dad are not relatable terms. Like it is a whole different ballgame. And he's in 13-year-old like full blown "you're not my dad" mode. So it's fun.
Well, I think I hope for you, for at least for me, it became I have a lot of gratitude for what my stepdad provided for me, and so I hope for most stepkids like that what happens because. Whatever the circumstances are, somebody has to raise them, and it takes a lot. That's a lot to raise a kid, but that is a whole nother conversation. All right. Well, hey man, this has been a great show. Where can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more? I mean, we've mentioned it over and over. You have a platform, but
the easiest thing is just to go onto any social media platform and type in "military millionaire" and you'll find it.
That's awesome, man. Do you ever get flack? I mean, I imagine you do because we get flack for talking about some of our deals. But when you say military to millionaire, do people get upset that you're saying you're like, oh, you're just bragging or?
Especially when I first started, it was hilarious. I remember I had a gunny and he was a piece of crap. Like he was just a terrible human being, but and I was at least confident enough to tell him that when things were off. So like we didn't really get along, mainly because I was doing all of his work for him, and then he would try to take credit for it, and he was just passed over for promotion like a million times, and just kind of one of those guys. And I will never forget that, like the moment people started realizing I was working on this blog on the side, because like I didn't talk about it at first, he like cornered me in front of a whole bunch of people trying to like show off, and was like, do you have $1 million in the bank? Because if not, like blah, 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 and I just remember being like, dude, like if I had $1 million and it was sitting in the bank, I would be the worst investor in the world. Like, go away. But yeah, I mean, especially in the military, I got flack for it on like promotion reports and stuff. It was kind of,
really?
I had one guy, I had been his top rated promotion report for like four time periods, whatever. And on the last one, when I left to move to California, he docked me. And I was like, what happened? And he's like, oh, well, I just can't see how you'd be as passionate about this if you're working on this other thing on the side. And I was like, well, okay, I took over 2 extra billets in the last 6 months and crushed them, including being the logistics, the main logistics guy, log chief for a trip to Bridgeport for 6 months for the entire, or 6 weeks for the entire regiment. And like, I crushed that. That's not even my MOS. So how did I go from number 1 to number 3 if I took on more responsibilities? It doesn't make any sense. And he's like, well, yeah, because, you've got this other thing going on. So I don't think you're as passionate about the Marine Corps. And I was like, so you'd prefer that I get drunk and play Call of Duty like all my peers? Because like, that's what they do on the weekend. They just get hammered drunk and play Call of Duty. Like I could do that if that's what it takes to. Yeah. I had a couple different, senior leaders who I think they were threatened. Honestly, I think they felt intimidated by it, and I got some interesting marks and comments about it. At one point when COVID first happened and we all went virtual, we had to use Teams for like Zoom calls every morning, and everybody started updating their profile photo so that when they were talking, because you couldn't have your camera on because I was in a skiff, so when they were talking to be whatever photo, some people put like Marine Corps logo, some people put like their alma mater, some people put like random crap, right? It wasn't like everybody had this uniform like photo. So I put my podcast art up, and immediately the memo was like, nope, no personal photos on Teams anymore. And then I got a severe talking to, and it was like little things like that. So Yeah, definitely got some flack, but ultimately I've learned that all those people are, it's usually a problem with them. If they're hating on you for something like that, it's usually a internal insecurity, not a valid, issue.
Yeah. I've thought about that a bit over the past year or so. I feel like it has something to do with we equate money with value, personal value.
Yeah.
So if you say I have a lot of money, people feel like you're saying I'm better than you. Yeah. But it's not like that at all. It's just, especially if you start talking about how you're doing it, and like you get some weird insecurity people that come out and talk. Yeah.
Well, and I made it very clear at the beginning that I did not have $1 million. It was me on the journey to try to get there. I do now, but I mean, not in a bank, but you asked me to show it to you and I'd have to sell a whole bunch of real estate with no commissions for it to count.
Well, but that is investing 101. Like you want to have your money moving and working for you. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. But all right, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a great conversation. It's good to get to know you better and see how you've done it, creating that brand and building that platform and everything's been awesome, man.
Yeah, brother.
Appreciate
Anytime. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what you do next, man.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast. We hope you found the information and insights shared valuable and thought-provoking. And if you liked this show, please subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And until next time, stay winning, stay curious, and crush life.